Here we are for chapter 12. So this chapter, it ended up taking me a few days to get around to writing it because life happens, but I am loving this idea that your chapters don't need to be a huge thing every time. And I don't know if I'll continue that in future books or not, because there's so many different debates on how you should write a book. And honestly, I'm to the point where I just like the idea of I'm just going to tell you a story, and that's the point of the book. And however the story ends up being presented is fine, because everyone has different tastes. Like this idea that your chapters need to have like a beginning, middle, and end, and like their own inner conflict each time, I feel like it kind of just, it makes for very long chapters, and it makes it just, I don't know, that's not how real life goes. Like a lot of times stuff just builds kind of slowly, but like also stuff that happens in one chapter kind of gets resolved in another, but also it's going to take the whole book to understand some stuff. And so this chapter, I've just kind of been like, we're just going to putz around and see what happens with the characters. And like the first like 900 words came really easily, and then I got a phone call and then had to go to the store, and so when I picked it back up I was like, where's I going with this? And so it ended up only being like a couple, like not even another 200 words or so. I ended with 1,023 words, which isn't a lot, but again, that's what the editing phase is for. But I also just kind of feel like it's sort of getting to this point where we're wrapping up part one of the book. Like I think the next couple chapters are going to conclude the part one, the book one, whatever, of, because I'm thinking of the Cinder series where they're like divided into books within the book, and like it really just feels like this is like part one of the book is going to be completed at about 14. And then I don't know what's going to change for the second, like the middle part of the book, because I'm not really following the hero's journey, and I'm not really doing like any kind of plot in mind. We're just rolling with whatever happens. And I think that's okay, because honestly, this story doesn't really fit that story like outline at all. And so I'm very curious to see how this is going to end up working out. Like how much is going to be in part two, arc two, act two, whatever of the book. Like I don't really know yet, but it really feels like the next couple of chapters, even maybe the next one, I don't know, it's just going to kind of wrap up the first chunk of story, and then we're going to move into the next part of their adventure. And so like I have like one thing that we've been working on, and I feel like it's going to conclude either in chapter 13 or 14, and that is going to open the gates to the next part of what they're working on, the more overarching goals. And so I think that's going to be act 2, because again, it's not really following the traditional way a story is supposed to go. I've also realized for like my writing style of how I go about writing, I think realistically 2 chapters a day is a pretty good goal. This last week, I had the idea of a chapter a day, and honestly it ended up working out better to have 2 chapters a day, and then I just have a little bit more freedom on other days and just focus on different stuff on different days. But I also want to just get this done, and it doesn't take that long to write. Usually it takes like around an hour-ish. Sometimes it comes faster, sometimes you're sitting there staring at the little cursor just blinking at you. But for the most part, usually, especially with shorter chapters, around an hour-ish to get it written seems to work out pretty well. And so that way, if I only am spending a couple hours of a day writing, and especially if I start it kind of early in the morning, which is what I'm planning on doing, is like get my husband to work, come home, write a few chapters, and then probably read for a bit, exercise, record, and then have the rest of the day to do whatever. But I'm trying to get all of my work done in like the mornings and have the afternoons to do whatever, like housework stuff. So I'm just trying out different like styles of how I want to organize my days. And I think it's going to switch over to a couple chapters in the mornings on the weekdays and not necessarily on weekends. So anyways, that is how chapter 12 went for writing right now, and then again we'll revisit this when I go through the editing phase of this. But yeah, so for now I would love to hear how your writing process is going for you. Are you following an outline? Are you just kind of pantsing it like me? I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. Make sure to like and subscribe. I post every other day, and until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all soon.